Watergate, the scandal that shook the White House, by Jacob Bozer and Bjorn Eckman, Period 5. The Watergate Scandal and Nixon's Resignation. As the 1968 to 1972 presidential term was reaching its end, Richard Nixon and CREEP, Committee to Re-elect the President, were seeking a way to stay ahead, despite the high popularity of Nixon. Although Nixon had all the odds on his side, the Watergate burglary set Nixon onto a path where the reveal of his scandal would mean the end to his political career. The 1972 presidential election was a source of stress for Nixon and his allies, as they were uncertain whether Nixon would win, and so some higher-ups of CREEP commanded burglaries of many different places to steal important information, and the Watergate burglary was the largest theft, as it was important due to the high amount of data and ability to wiretap phones. This obtained knowledge would create a large advantage for the president in his re-election campaign, as he could then react to actions performed by the Democratic Party before their execution of said actions. On June 17, 1942, a team of 5 burglars broke into the office of the DHC at the Watergate complex with the objective of planning wiretaps to spy on the Democrats and stealing important documents via photo. But they were noticed as Frank Wills found that something was off. 4 of the burglars were former CIA agents, and the 5th was a security coordinator for CREEP. Their 2 objectives were completed in the stealing of those photographs and the wiretapping of important phones. With both espionage activities carried out, the advantage was all but secured. However, a mistake was made by going and taking the photographs to a public photo shop for enlarging, leading to the owner of that photo shop to go and inform the FBI of this large-scale burglary and of the important knowledge that was stolen.
After the breaking of the Watergate office building, President Nixon's team had immediately worked to hide what had happened. His aides gave money to the burglars to keep them quiet and to stop them from talking to the police or any sort of media. This wasn't just about helping friends, it was a clear attempt to protect the president and his own campaign. Nixon, however, didn't stop there, as he had also tried to get the CIA to tell the FBI to stop their own investigation. He claimed it was for national security, but that wasn't true. This was a big deal because it showed that he was using government agencies to protect himself rather than letting them do their job. Eventually, investigators found out that Nixon had a secret recording system inside of the Oval Office. These tapes recorded conversations that took place in the White House, and they included clear proof that Nixon had known everything about the cover-up from the beginning. These tapes were the key evidence that brought everything down. As the cover-up was starting to fall apart, Nixon tried to defend himself publicly. In a 1973 press conference at Disney World, he told reporters, quote, "I'm not a crook," end quote. But instead of helping, the phrase became a national joke. Ironically, the tapes released later proved that he had, in fact, been involved in the cover-up and was indeed a crook. As the investigation into Watergate continued, the United States Senate held televised hearings that revealed just how involved Nixon and his staff were in the cover-up. Americans watched as former White House staff, like John Dean, testified about what happened behind closed doors. For many Americans, it was shocking to see how much corruption was happening at the highest level of government. Then came the most damaging evidence, the smoking gun tape. In this recording, Nixon is heard telling his aides to use the CIA to stop the FBI's investigation into Watergate. This was a clear example of obstruction of justice, and it erased any doubts about his guilt. With the release of that tape, Nixon lost nearly all of his political support, even from his own Republican Party. He realized he would be impeached and removed from office, so he resigned on August 8th of 1974. This was the first time in United States history that a president resigned from office, and just 1 month after Nixon resigned, President Gerald Ford gave him a full and unconditional pardon on September 8th of 1974. This meant Nixon could not be charged with any crimes related to the Watergate scandal. The decision was extremely controversial, and many Americans saw it as a way for Nixon to escape justice. It seriously hurt Ford's popularity and trust in government even further. Watergate caused a huge loss of trust in the United States government. Before the scandal, many Americans believed that their leaders were honest and had their best interests in mind. After Watergate, people became much more suspicious of politicians and questioned what was really happening behind the scenes. The scandal also led to major changes in how the government works. Congress passed new laws to limit presidential power, like the War Powers Act, and added stricter rules for campaign finance. These changes were meant to make sure nothing like Watergate could happen again. Finally, Watergate showed how important the press is in democracy. Reporters like Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein helped uncover the truth by following the evidence and refusing to give up. Ever since then, journalists have played a bigger role in holding the government accountable.